don't cover tonight. We'll cover it later. I've got in electronic format. I've spent a fair amount of my time troubleshooting issues. I've got a customer with a big system. They run about 120 users on their they got several Linux servers. But you get 80 users on one box.
Please come to the circulation desk, Julie Hanlon.
You get about 80 users on one Linux box, and you're going to have performance issues, right? No matter what. So I deal with those kinds of things. They call me up at 2 in the afternoon and say the system feels really slow. What's going on? I can usually tell them somebody's running month end, right? I know if it's December 3rd or 4th, they're running month end for November, that kind of thing. So I spend more time than I should in troubleshooting issues. So I've got a whole bunch of different commands I can show you. First though, I've got a few commands that Gib was playing with USB devices. Gib, can I see one of your USB devices? Anything. D-message is a great tool for looking at what's going on. What I got here?
Memory card.
Storage, yeah.
Yeah, D-message is a great tool to figure out what's going on. Is there actually a memory card in here, or is it just a...
Here, try this. Well...
This is just a memory card reader.
Right.
Anyway, that's all right.
Here, this will work.
There's another command, there's a whole bunch of commands that start with ls, right? And look at all the ls
There's
things.
an Irene or a Neil. And
Okay, so we got a USB. You're trying to figure out why your device isn't working. You plugged it in and it just can't get it working. LSUSB is awesome. Shows me all the USB devices. One of those devices is going to be this thing. I guess it's probably the Z-Star microelectronics, so that doesn't look familiar. All right. So that tells you something about that's plugged into bus 3, device 1, right? If I unplug it, that probably goes away. Yeah, it's gone. So if you're trying to figure out how to get a device to work, one of the things you want to find out is does your system recognize it? So if it shows up in LSUSB, yeah, it recognizes, at least it knows there's a couple of strings here, a couple of numbers that are important. If you see these things here, I think this is the vendor and the device ID.
Yes.
Right. It's been a while since I played with some of these tools. When I was doing LTSP, I did this stuff all the time. So I had to figure out how to make all kinds of different devices work with the thin client. So I was always playing with this kind of stuff. I think you can do LSUSB minus V. It'll show me lots more information about each of the devices that I've got. Right now I can go through and really see what's going on. Right, what kind of host controller. More information than you care to see. But just by doing LSUSB and seeing the devices there, now if I'm trying to figure out what driver to use or whether it's even supported by Linux or by a particular distribution, I can take that information and go Google for it. Like the device and the vendor and device ID, those pairs of hex numbers, very handy if you want to go search in Google to figure out if this device is supported. All right? Very similar to LSUSB, something else I used all the time was LSPCI. What do you suppose that does? Tells you what devices are on your PCI bus. Right? A lot of the same kind of information. LSPCI, of course, has a -V option that tells you more. I don't know what it's doing. Actually, looks like it's trying to gather more information. But it's great if you're trying to figure out what kind of video card you've got. You know it's a PCI card, right? It's plugged into the PCI bus. But what is it? So you can use LSPCI to tell you all kinds of great stuff about your card.
You can add more V's to LSPCI.
Yeah, you can keep adding the V's, and it just gets silly with how much information it tells you.
Yeah.
Right? How much do you want to know about what's plugged into your PCI bus?
Here's the place.
Let's see. Yeah, I've got an Intel video card, so that tells you right there. mobile 4 series chipset, integrated graphics controller. All kinds of weird things. And the device guys, the guys that write drivers, they love this kind of stuff. It tells them all kinds of information. And again, there's a way, remember I showed you the vendor and device ID? That exists here on PCI devices too. Let me get rid of some of these.
Yeah.
There's just too much information. Somewhere in there is the vendor and device ID.
I think it's interpreting it for you, like if you remove
Yeah.
remove all of these.
Yeah, that string, the first string, like it says display controller, that information really comes from that vendor and device ID. There's a database in the system that maps the vendor and device to that information right there. I used to have to do this with network cards, trying to figure out how to get a network card to work.
What's this device 024F subsystem?
Yeah,
so
Dell device 024.
Yeah.
Anyway. So that's two of the LS commands that I've used a lot. Days gone by. You want to see LS CPU? Just tells you about your CPUs. Well, it did on my machine at home. Okay, so you want to see about your CPUs? /proc/CPU info. You guys know about this one, don't you? What CPU you have, what the megahertz rating is on it. I got a Core 2 Duo, 2.66 gigahertz. There's all the processor flags. You want to figure out if your system has hyper-threading or if it can handle VMware virtualization. It's got the DT bit. This one I believe does, but that's probably wrapped off the screen. How many BOGO MIPS? How many BOGO MIPS was that chip that you had, Craig? 1 point something?
It was
1,260. BOGO MIPS are kind of a funny thing. All right, it's just a measurement for calculating clock speeds and other things. You can't really use it to figure out how fast your system is.
well, it's supposed to be millions of instructions per second, wasn't it? But I mean,
But it's BOGO MIPS.
Yeah.
Well, it's basically doing nothing during
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
how
just
many, how many times can it
fast
do
I
nothing
wait?
in a second, right? Right? It's just meant to get timed. I've got it's a dual core CPU, so it looks like 2 processors. Right? Let's see, LSHW.
So it's still
tells you a little
a
bit about
60
your hardware.
address.
I'm not sure why I'm not
He
able
has to think.
to get that. These commands work on my machine at home, by the way. So those are the ones that if you're playing with devices, trying to get them to work, those are very handy tools. But let's say you get into a situation where you got a performance issue, you're trying to diagnose a performance issue for somebody. Well, top is a real handy one. What? Who broke my system?
Yep.
I was only the guy in the middle.
Cool.
No, Gib was there too.
It's gonna make it tough to
Yeah,
show
I
you
was.
something. Yeah.
Listen, I was only the guy in the middle. That's kind of weird, huh?
Yeah.
Well, close out their window and try again. I mean, do the Windows thing.
Yeah, I mean, uptime and LSCPU works on my laptop, so it's
Yeah. Weird, I could still,
Did you mess it? Let's go debug this. That's trace
You
D
gotta
out.
troubleshoot your computer.
oh yeah, looks like hard disk error.
Yeah.
Neat.
oh, great,
I'm on
huh?
holiday today. I'm setting up alternate servers because of that exact
Yeah.
error. And
That might
I
explain
don't
why
know-
your PCI stuff was hanging initially.
It could be, yeah.
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 I had my
Well,
disc got put.
talk about your
in.
troubleshooting, right?
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
D-message is telling me all kinds of neat things. That's one of the things I'll use on a customer site when it's been a while since I've had a hard disk here. You know, when you have these big fancy disk subsystems with RAID and everything else, you really don't get to see some of these messages anymore. They're old sector errors, right?
Well, it's hard to know where to fly.
Sector error, bad block errors. But D-message is great for that kind of thing. It's showing me that I've got some sector problems on my hard disk.
Cool.
Which,
Not a good time to need a new hard drive.
Anyway, the commands that I was going to show you.
Using on the machine.
Well, it's 8:30. We really got to shut down. But the commands that I really wanted to show you were things like obviously top for seeing what your performance is looking like. VM stat, so you can check the performance of your virtual memory system, find out if you're doing a lot of swapping. Some net stat to check on some network things. I think what I'm going to do though is come back again maybe next month or the month after with a machine that still works. And we'll spend a little more time on those kind of tools because those can be really, really useful.
Sure.
I've really grown to like VM stat. I've got the system I've got with 80 users on it in the ER. It's only got 4 gigs of RAM.
Oh, wow.
It's amazing that thing performs as well as it does.
32-bit?
It's in 32-bit mode. It's running Red Hat Enterprise Linux 3.
3?
It was built in 2003, so it's 8 years old.
Wow.
And it chugs along every day. Once in a while, I got to get on and find out who's hogging the CPUs. Four cores. Anyway, it is 8:30. We really need to start packing up. So I'm going to see if I can shut this thing down.
That's not a good sign.
It wasn't me, honest.
Have a great day.
Just close out that Juno thing and don't worry about just.
It's just a laptop.
Yeah, you don't use it for development at
No,
all?
I do all my work.
Try and hit
unlike
zero.
some people I know, I do all my work on my servers. Rick used to give me a hard time all the time about not actually doing development on my laptop.
Try and hit zero. That seems to work.
All right, so while I shut this thing down, not so gracefully, questions?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
When you rebuild this machine, what are you going to put on it for operating system?
Well, it's a good question. I've been debating whether I should actually put Ubuntu 11.10 on it. I was really kind of holding out for the April release of the LPS to try to stick with those. I was actually considering over the last week or so just going and putting 11.10 on it. So I may do that.
They got the first release up there asking for power users to come install.
Yeah, I don't think so. I do have a job to do. I still got to be able to get to my servers where I do my work.
Yeah.
All right.
Even if there's nothing on your hard drive, right?
That's true, that should work.
So when you
More
replace
questions?
And alpha that for sure.
Right.
when you replace the drive, are you going to put a solid state drive in it?
I've got a solid state drive sitting at home just collecting dust. 40 solid state. I've used it like to test operating systems and stuff. That'd be a really good one to put in.
I got one of those for my desktop. I couldn't stand it anymore.
Why?
Yeah.
Desktop felt so much slower than my laptop, even though it's much more beefy.
Yeah.
All because of that stupid SSD. So I went and got a 40 gig SSD just to make the main drive with the desktop, and then it's got larger spinning disk for home, and then it feels so much better.
Alright. Fill out your surveys.
Yeah. Fill out. You got a